appropriate uses of ChatGPT, and modifying our photos with and without our knowledge. This is Mac Voices. This edition of Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to keep you up on all the latest from Mac Voices. Watch or listen to Mac Voices straight from your email client. Sign up at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay up to date. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Our Mac Voices Live panel concludes a discussion of ChatGPT and the appropriate uses for it, including what they are and are not individually comfortable with. Then we take a look at things that are being added to our photos and removed from our photos with and without our permission. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. I can't help but think, as we head into the political season here, with all the speeches that are going to be made, what would happen? What would ChatGPT do if you could feed it all the text of all the speeches at the Democratic National Convention and the the Republican National Convention and ask it to summarize? That will be an interesting exercise to have done at some point.
You know it's going to happen.
Listen, I'd love to see somebody do it from the last two conventions, so that we could get a sense of how accurate it is and how effective, because it could be very effective to get an idea of what was said. But then we come back to Brian's issues of, okay, what are the citations? Are these really accurate statements about who said what, or are they just summations or conclusions that the engine derived from all that?
Right, and I was thinking too, if you ask AI to summarize something, whether it's a speech, a video, whatever it might be, and you ask it, to pull out the three most important points from this particular speech, well, what I feel are the three most important points are going to be different than what other people are going to feel sometimes, or what the most important things, based on our own experiences, backgrounds, biases that are brought in.
That's an interesting point, because there are not necessarily objective truths in what are the most important points. It may depend on you as the audience member as to what you thought was most important.
And its purpose, yeah.
In that case, it becomes the ultimate groupthink.
Mm-hmm. And whoever programmed it in such a way that how it's going to interpret it.
Wow. So now we have Brian saying, depending on who programmed it, and Ben is saying it's the ultimate groupthink. So does that mean we're going to have political engines out there that are going to spin everything one way, and then another engine is going to spin it the other?
I'm pretty sure that's already happening.
Yeah.
Well,
this is
from a human standpoint, yes, Jeff, but from an AI standpoint?
It wouldn't surprise me if there are different groups that have AI models that are working on exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Politics is big business, and the winners are on the side that get the most people in the places where they want them. So, yeah, with that kind of money going around, it's a safe bet that there are groups that are already working on that.
There are nights that we have these discussions on Mac Voices Live that I feel like we are in the middle of a science fiction novel.
Because we're to the point where science fiction is science fact.
Well, that's it. That some of the things we end up discussing that we all are dealing with are things that, I read in high school or college in some novel that may or may not have been dystopian, but definitely, we're there. And now we're trying to figure out Jeff, was it you? I forget who did the mic drop a couple weeks ago on Star Trek: The Ultimate Computer. when we were talking about some of this.
I missed that week, I think.
Okay, so, somebody said when we were talking about just AI out of control, and the storyline to that. And if you don't know what it is, folks, go back and look it up. It's not hard to find by any means. But those kind of things, were the topic, that were the subject of science fiction novels, and now here we are.
Well, Chuck, I remember when I was a kid reading 1984, and I think studying it in school and thinking, this is so ridiculous. Obviously, televisions cannot watch you. And they will never be able to watch you.
How wonderfully naive, Jim.
Well, this was in the 1970s.
Oh, yeah.
And, and it's like, TV is a broadcast medium, you can't, that's never going to be possible that the TV is going to be able to watch you. And yeah, I was completely wrong. So, we're also all walking around with tricorders and, almost everything we do is science fiction from the point of, when I grew up in the 1960s and 70s.
Think about some of what we're having in the world of television right now, and then compare that to some of the scripts from Max Headroom.
Oh my God!
Max Headroom had scripts.
Chuck, do you remember the episode where they have the trial, and both sides show up with a floppy disk and stick it into a drive, and then the computer, the AI, analyzes the data on both the disks, and then passes judgment. And I remember watching that thinking, this is absolutely insane, and what a crazy idea. But at the same time, I was thinking, what if something like that could happen? And wasn't it like a couple weeks ago, there were headlines about the first cases where AI is presenting the prosecution and defense. We're this close to the Max Headroom courtroom.
Yeah. About 25 years ago, I wrote a piece of near future science fiction stuff that at the time felt pretty outlandish. Well, I revisited not too long ago. I actually didn't have to change all that much to make it something period piece.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Jeff, to go back to Max Headroom for a second, just the battle over ratings. You remember all that, and that just feels like what we're experiencing now. And aspects of reality TV are right in there. I mean, right on point to a frightening degree.
Well, and think about the pirate stations that were out there broadcasting too. That's the analogy now is we are doing that. Podcasting is that pirate broadcast from Max Headroom. It just so happens it's not going directly over the airwaves. It's happening on internet cables.
We are the pirates right here now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't drawn that conclusion at all, Jeff. That's really interesting.
You need to go back and watch Max Headroom.
Yeah, right.
Again, because you'll be watching these episodes and it's like over and over you see something and it'll give you pause or to make the hair on your arm stand up, or you'll be like, seriously, they predicted that? That's old now. And yeah.
All right, mateys, I want to get in at least one more before the evening's over.
Arr.
And I'm not sure if this sort of fits in, I guess. But it looks like Samsung has been, shall we say, exaggerating claims about its phone's ability to take photos of the moon, because it's apparently they've been inserting some extra things into those photos to make them look even better. And the way they've been doing it, if the tests bear out, which some of the subsequent articles I've read since the one I just threw in the chat, that they have actually been, if you go out and take a picture of the moon, that the phone is processing it and adding things in that it knows that are on the moon.
Wait, a company's PR department Photoshop something?
No.
No, it's in the software.
Yeah, the image rendering from the camera on the phone is photoshopping, if you will, as a verb, the image.
Yeah.
It's not actually Photoshop, but yes.
Okay.
If you point your Samsung phone at the moon, it's like, oh, you're pointing at the moon, and it substitutes a picture of what the moon that is not coming from the image that's hitting the CCD.
Right.
I'm going to take what might be a little controversial opinion on this. If that's what the end user wants, I don't see a problem with it.
But first of all, it's wasn't disclosed. If I wanted an image of the moon from a Google search, I would do an image of the moon from a Google search. I'm being told that I'm taking a picture, and that's not what it's doing. That's fraud.
So just for the people that might be a little confused, it's not actually going and finding like stock images and giving you those and saying, "Hey, this is your photograph." What it's doing is analyzing the image, apparently, and saying, "Oh, this is supposed to be the moon. This is what the moon should look like," and then it's generating all the parts that make it look like a moonshot.
Isn't that really sort of essentially the thing? Is where's it getting that information? So it's pulling information not out of your sensor. So to me, that's essentially the same as doing a Google image search.
It's mixing data from your sensor with wherever it got data about what the moon looks like. Yeah. Regardless, your point about this sounds a lot like fraud stands. I mean, even if it's not fraud, it is certainly very misleading, because if you're taking photos and you're thinking that my camera took this photo, and that's not the case, that's a problem. To Ben's point, if it's giving you the image you want, great. That's good for the consumer. However, it should be clear how you're getting the image.
So let me go back and forth on this for a minute. So if I am using a photo to document something that is, and right now it only appears that they've been caught doing this to the moon. All right. But let's say they're doing it to, or eventually start doing it to other things, so that if I take a picture of a grassy field, that I don't get what the actual grass is, what it looks like from a standpoint of how dry is it, how many weeds are in it or whatever. Do I suddenly just get a nice grassy field? And that presents a real problem. So there it's a negative. Now flip it around, and Jeff, Ben, David, I think all of you are going to say the same thing, but I can kind of do that right now in a number of different graphic editing programs, where the actual feature is replace the sky. You get this great shot, the sky looks boring. Okay, then let's put an amazing sky in it, and your picture gets even better.
But then you did that.
But you don't know I did it if I did it and show it to you.
Okay, there's a difference between your phone generating an image that you think is unique and accurate versus you as a photographer editing and manipulating the images that you're snapping?
Let's say you enter a picture in a contest, and the contest says you can't do any adjustments to the picture to have a valid entry. And you take it with a phone that tweaks the picture. You are legitimately entering a picture you didn't touch, but it was tweaked. That's not a valid entry. And you didn't know it. That's a problem. Now, all they would have to do is disclose that they're doing that, and then it's a feature.
Well, the other thing that I think that if I read the article correctly, or the one I read, and I know there have been several, that Samsung was saying, well, we have this 100x zoom, and it's just amazing. And they were using the moon as an example.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it really is kind of amazing. And then you find out that, okay, if I point it to the moon, I get an amazing image. If I point it at David, I don't get quite as amazing an image. Well, not that David's image isn't amazing, but
you need to have
Pick a
David stand a lot farther away, according to Samsung's camera specs. There you go.
You saying that David looks better the farther away we get? Is that what you're saying, Jeff?
No, I'm saying that it's a limitation of Samsung's technology, and it's very disappointing.
Say if he gets too far away, then you end up with a picture of a moon, and we don't want that.
Right.
I think, that's the thing, is they're saying, we've got 100 times zoom. It's way better than an iPhone because we can do this 100 times zoom. And, see, look here, 100 times zoom. Isn't that great? So that's why I think it's fraud.
All right. I have a question about that.
Or at least false advertising.
Okay. So Apple with the iPhone, when they tell us that, what is it, like a 12x zoom? They are actually clear about the lens does an optical zoom of, what is it, 2x, 3x, depending on the camera,
right?
And then 12x, it's interpolating the data.
Right.
So is Samsung being clear about this, and we just haven't seen it because we're not Samsung phone users, or are they leading people to believe that they have a physical 100x zoom lens built into a phone that's less than a centimeter thick?
Today's edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter. Visit macvoices.com/newsletter today, sign up, and stay up to date. Jeff, I think that there are several different parts to that question. I'm not sure that everybody understands, unless you're a tech person or a photography person, if they really understand the implications of what it takes to get 100x zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we've seen digital zoom on cameras for a long time now. And I'm talking about point and shoot level cameras, where it has an optical so far, and then you're into digital. And we all know that what happens is that eventually, the first couple steps out into digital may be okay. Then beyond that, it starts to get blocky and pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
But and that has improved, and Apple has definitely done a great job of improving some of that with superior algorithms. But
a digital zoom is basically cropping.
That's part of it. But Apple is running algorithms that are trying to fill in the missing pixels, if you will.
Interpolate or something?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely doing interpolation.
Yeah.
I didn't know
that. But Jim, to your point, though, I still agree that, I think that this borders on very misleading advertising. And in the case of the moon photos as a demonstration, yeah, I'm with you. I think it's fraud. Because that's, but the damnable part about it is that apparently I can take that phone, go out shoot a picture of the moon and I can get what Samsung is saying in their advertising. I get. It's just that if I try to use that feature on anything else, I don't get the same quality of result. Is that the way everybody else reads it, or am I misinterpreting it?
Seems right.
Okay. I see head shakes.
Well, and it's even worse in a way, because that picture of the moon proves that the camera works correctly. If you don't get the same result of a building, or your kid at a play on the other side of the theater, that's your problem. That's your fault. And that's not true at all. It's the camera didn't really do what it pretended to do, which goes back to Jim's, it's a fraud.
Okay. I think it sounds like we have consensus on that one. Somebody write that down. This group never gets consensus. Wow. So I'm going to try to squeeze one more in here, just because it's sort of along some of these same lines, and that is that the Google Pixel's Magic Eraser feature is available now in your iPhone as well as on the Google devices. And according to all the reports, and I don't know if any of you have had a chance to play with this, but apparently it works pretty well. The only trouble is that you're going to have to pay Google $1.99 per month to have access to this feature on the app. So the question I have for everybody here is being able to erase things from your photos worth $1.99? Because
aren't there other apps that do this sort of thing, like Pixelmator Pro and stuff like that?
Or the Photos app?
Does the Photos app erase to this degree?
Actually, maybe I'm misinterpreting the feature. Is it? Isn't it doing like what you can do on your iPhone, where you're cutting out parts of images, or is it doing the Photoshop thing where it removes an object from an image and then replaces it with a background so it appears as it wasn't there?
That.
See, it would help if I actually read.
Jeff has a write-only interface.
That's right.
Well, Brian and Eric are both shaking their heads yes. So do you all know, or have you had experience with any of this?
I know my wife uses the Magic Eraser on her Pixel. She hasn't used it too much, though. As far even for me, it wouldn't be worth $1.99 a month. I wouldn't use it personally.
Eric?
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times. I wouldn't pay for it. I think it's nice to have it as an option. So, if somebody had a Google Pixel and wanted to switch to an iPhone but really wanted that feature, pay a couple of months and then decide it doesn't matter. You could just take 2 pictures and then select the best one out of the sequence or whatever. But it's adding a feature, making it available, charging something for it so it still keeps getting developed. I have no problem with that.
The reason I brought it up is sort of the subtitle of the article was that, it does this great job, but there's a catch. And the catch is that you have to sign up with Google, and there's $1.99. And of course, anytime Google, the word Google gets involved, then you have to wonder about where's the photo going and, what access is being given to it. And I haven't seen any articles accusing that, but it's just something that pops up in my mind. But I didn't feel like this was that much of in fact, I didn't think it was a bait and switch at all. It's just like, okay, if I want this feature, they're going to charge me $1.99 to have it. And so, I'll have it for as long as I need it or want it, but I'm not being required to have it. It's just that I won't have access to it. So Brad says Pixelmator app on iPhone for $4.99 offers the same repair tool. Much better deal. Yeah, it would be. So I have not taken that much time to work with anything on my phone to play with it and see just how it works out. but worth bringing up.
You know, if I'm going to go to that extent for image correction, image manipulation, I want to use an app that's designed for that. That said, I can appreciate that there are a lot of people that want the convenience of being able to do that in their photo management or camera app, and so for those people, great. And if the feature works well, great. This, however, is Google's version of this is not something that appeals to me.
Jeff, I think it's safe to say that I'll single out you, and probably there's a segment of our audience out there that are really looking for that professional tool. And then there's a segment out there that is just, hey, it's good enough. You know, the fact that in that particular area where I cut out that person, if the leaves in the background are, you know, perfectly sharp like all the other leaves, my eye doesn't see it, and so it's close enough. It's good enough.
Sure. So. And for a lot of people, these images are going on social media. And yes, when you're uploading an image, say, to Facebook, Facebook is going to do their own compression on top of your image, which means whatever it is you upload is not going to look as good on Facebook. And you could probably use a rubber stamp tool to take something out, and it's obvious, but when it's on Facebook, not so much.
Great point. Great point. Guys, we're actually over time a little bit, but this has been a terrific discussion on a whole wide variety of topics. Thank you all very much for coming and sharing your opinions and your wisdom in that order. Let's go around the room and let folks know where you can be found when you're not here, pontificating on all this stuff. Yeah, I'm going to keep the order I started out with because otherwise I'll get confused. So that puts David Ginsburg up first, who's been a little quiet tonight. I hope he's okay.
I had some comments, but yeah, it was a good conversation. So,
okay. People
can find me at InTouchWithIOS at InTouchWithIOS.com. I'm happy to announce that Ben is going to be joining our panel as a regular contributor. I'm looking excited for that. That's awesome. And you can find us on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/InTouchWithIOS. I'm here on Tuesday nights. I'm also on the Mac Show on British Tech Network on Fridays, and which are going to have a daylight savings time battle for that show these next few weeks. But you can find me on Mastodon at DaveG65 at Mastodon.cloud, as well as on Twitter, DaveG65.
Thank you, David. Good to have you. Brian, thank you for coming back again and sharing your economics knowledge and your tech knowledge and everything else. We really, really appreciate it, especially since you just got off the road. That's real dedication. That's real dedication. What's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Best way is probably on Twitter. My name, Brian8944. And yeah.
Great. Thanks so much.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Ben, how did David ever talk you into that?
Really easily.
Well, okay. So in addition to being part now of the In Touch with iOS team, where else can folks find you?
You can find me on Thursday and Fridays on the British Tech Network on the Big and Mac Show. You can find me on the social medias at Ben Roethig on your platform of choice, and my permanently interim website, benroethig.blogspot.com. God, my brain doesn't work. RoethigTech.blogspot. It's on Blogspot. Just find it. Just look up RoethigTech.
Is that like anything like being an interim CEO?
Yes,
it's a lot like that.
It's a lot like that.
I'm the interim CEO of myself.
Okay, that works. That works. Jeff Gamet, thank you so much for being here. A lot of great information, and thank you for being our unofficial researcher who throws extra links in the chat so we have even better show notes. Where can folks find you?
I'm glad that that this obsessive thing with, well, Jim said that, and that's a really good point. I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to go and start doing all this research. So it's paying off because now you have show notes. All right. So where can people find me? Social media, Gamet on basically whatever, but really Instagram and Mastodon. That's where I'm posting stuff. And then shows here with you, Chuck, on Tuesdays because you keep letting me come back. And then as long as we're talking interim, I am the interim host on The Big Show on British Tech Network on Thursdays. And then the interim host for the Mac Show on British Tech Network again on Fridays. And I've kind of lost track for how long I've been interim host.
Years.
Years, literally years at this point. Yes. Okay. And then Dave, for some reason, keeps letting me come back on In Touch with iOS. By the way, Ben, I'm really excited you're going to be there too.
Yeah, me too.
And then on the Context Machine with Brian Chaffin. I think that's the stuff.
If not, I'll have extra in the show notes just in case.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jeff. Eric Bolden, you and Brian both came off the road tonight just to be here. Really, really appreciate it. I'm not going to ask you where you were coming from or going to. I'm just going to say you're here. Thank you so much. Where can folks find you?
I can be found on Mastodon, EA Bolden at techhub.social. That's the easiest.
Great. Thanks so much. Last but absolutely not least, our in-house developer, Mr. Jim Rea. Jim, where can folks connect with you?
I noticed that a lot of you are on all these shows, and I'm excited to be exclusive to this show. Can't find me anywhere else. I'm totally Mac Voices. That's it. But you can also find me on the web at ProView, PROVUE.com, and on Mastodon at ProViewJim at TechHub.social.
Great. Thank you for signing that exclusivity contract, Jim.
It's in the mail.
It's in the mail. Perfect. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices Live. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. You should be in our chat room. We've had some very active conversation in there tonight. Brad's been especially prolific tonight. Thank you so much, Brad, for all your thoughts. And to everyone else that's in there as well. We're slowly but surely building up a live audience. Now we just got to get them to get in there and throw their comments in too. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.